Hwaet, we gardener in je dagum, feierd kuninga, thrum je thrunnen, who the evelingers ellen fremeden. Of schuld chafing shevne threat and money and meg the medisetter oft her, eggs or the ela, sit an eres weas feiershaf frunden. He that's frofree bad, wailks and the walknum, wailth mindem tha, or that him you wilch, there setendra, overthrown, rather, here and shoulder, gomban gulden, that was God kuning. That is the source of the title of our book, Hwaet, which means listen, and poets over 20 years at Ledbury have been telling people to listen in their work, and they've been asking you to listen at Ledbury.
This is my 12th Ledbury Festival, and so thank you, Ledbury, for being Ledbury. It's always been wonderful. The Penelopes. I saw the Penelopes painted and named, but not shamed, on a brick wall along Calvert Street. Banksy-esque, I guess, unsigned urban art. 2 young women on horseback, en face. Though I had my camera, I didn't take a photo. Cameras lie, they blunt and flatten, but I kept the white Penelopes in my eye. A few days later, it seems, in my mind's eye, they rode on elephants or camels or elands, any creature but horses. And I wonder if I go back to Shoreditch, but it won't be tomorrow, will the Penelopes still be there, drawn by an easy, clever hand, low down on a wall on Calvert Street?
Such an event. Anyway, it's called The Day Heaney Died. Floor spots on the end night of a poetry course, then the last student, whose performance signals we follow him off the sofas, who strides out the barn as if possessed, crossing the Totley stones to recite, "What would you seek from without?" We're led by his torch over grass that wears upright water, though we're some way behind and hear him in flits. Out here, bare space is home to the yawning cow. One of the 16, overwhelmed by wet feet and the squelch below, sounds cheerful enough. I think I've lost my foot in a cowpat. We rise up in the still warm hill, where our guide seems on the brow apparitional, who glows us a lane to his hearth, then ends pleading, "Is not the air inspired by another place, another life?" Have we been dragged by the grunts, the gutturals of our flesh, tied to the customary rhythms of verse, in the valley of our own passive ascent for the usual letdowns? Except when his torch blanks, we are balled into darkness. Our instinct is to elevate our heads and seek out a luminous speck. So we gasp to state we're upon a harvest of stars, a cascade heaven, lost for a moment in the loosening gravity. Till there, beyond the silence of breath, the brightest by far, the one in the line of the great glow, like the first light of the soul, that's become its own source, a pilot to the host, the lost, the grief-sore, north.
Alison Bradbury.
Good evening. This poem ends in Ledbury in 2013, one of the sunniest festivals, but it begins in Lincolnshire with my grandfather, who was one of at least 4 generations of shepherds. It is called 97. He had that art too, counting sheep, my grandfather, away at 10 at shows. Surprising, he could read and he could count. I spent all day high on his hills, watched clouds lift fair over the lambing huts, bent chimney. Is there a photo? Who would care? My grandfather cared for the sheep. Before lunch tins pulled pipe from mouth to count them as they crammed 3 deep, 13, 14, never missing his beat as fleeces pressed trough's edge. 97, hey, 3 missing. He hauled 3, struggling, from a hedge. The shepherd died. The sheep are gone. Some, of course, slid onto plates. Rams were exported, blood count wrong. When the last collie was put down, the ministry bought the flock for tests. How lives must shrink. Although along the hill clouds sweep, the tin hut rusts. Out of dark spring, the swifts flash back. I watch them from a valley town. Their crying drowns the church's clock. They ride air like a surfer down his wave. Their blue is blank with heat. I scarcely know where I have been, but plant my feet on fresh ground. Count not sheep, but swifts. 13, 14.
Jack Self's quality can't be bought or stolen. Mudder hasn't bottled it. Muggins here hasn't brought it home in his briefcase. The farmer hasn't clipped its weighty foam from his blackest sheep. The hawkman with a rag of meat in his leather glove can't bring it stooping from the sky. Thomas Cat hasn't fetched it from the farmyard to lay still warm at Jack Self's feet. The dark continent Jack Self peels from the flank of a Frisian cow, ties to his ankles and drags across the flatland at midday, doesn't prove his substance. The night is made of what he needs. He moonwalks in daylight, afraid like snow he'll wane or drift before he can hold the road out front, the fields behind, and the earth in the churchyard. So Jack Self crawls to the coal shed and eats.
Yeah, this poem's nothing to do with Ledbury, although I'd quite like what happens in it to happen here one day. But anyway, it was written on a beach on a Greek island, and it's called How to Make an Angel Smile. If there were angels, then this is where they would live, or somewhere like this. Not frozen in a gloomy church stuffed full of sin, or weeping in a graveyard waiting for the end to begin, or standing at the metal rail of some poor patient's bed, grinning a welcome as the charts go down and down. No. Here, you see them sometimes, in a wisp of spray, a stretching dog, an aimless turtle, or hear them in cicadas and goat bells and the wind. They glint on quartz and sparkle on sand and relax each time a woman, middle-aged and lumpy, makes the brave decision to be the first one there that day to go topless on the beach.
I think this poem is the perfect poem to follow what you've just heard. In a single breath. Questions are hands, running fluid down thighs, around knees falling into arch. Hands brown and warm and seeking, hands dark and safe, telling and kissing without need and want of lips and tongues. Tongues lost in palms, palms end in fingertips lost in napes and dips and bellies of buttons. Fingertips tracing, trickling, traipsing, trying, treacherous against lobe, hairline and cleft of throat. Painstakingly slow, yet urgent. throwing away names, stripping names away, throwing urgent yet slow, painstakingly, throat of cleft and hairline, lobe against treacherous trying, traipsing, trickling, tracing fingertips, bellies of buttons and dips and napes and lost fingertips, in end palms, palms and lost tongues, tongues and lips of want and need without kissing and telling, safe and dark hands, warm and brown, seeking, hands arch into falling, knees around, thighs down, fluid, running hands are questions.
I know this poem is about water as well, but it's about the rivers. It's about the Amazon where another river meets it, and the two rivers run along together in contiguity. They're different colours because one's got a lot of black sand in it. And so I use it as an image of meeting, what happens when people, any sort of union happens. Encuentro das aguas. It is unlike anything else. Wild swimming, the nub of selves meeting, conflux of two rivers, the dark and the gold, Rio Negro and Rio Solimões in Brazil. The kiss. Nerve ends twisting together underground. Each name touched and forgotten in a time really can stand still that makes us shiver. No more Durga, she who is difficult to reach. We are a whole shaman's journey in ourselves, an invisible bridge, a quest to the interior. Any what do you think of me's dissolve in each other's dark, a promise that may never be fulfilled, but is complete each moment in itself.
And this poem is about mountains, about climbing a mountain. Climbing Helvellyn. 10 years from now, the path will look the same, conceal the same old rocks lying in wait for the newest ingénue. It's us who will have changed, morphed from stags to men with mortgages, yet unsure how, escaping from a feeling we can't now name and couldn't gauge the weight of the day we bounded up Helvellyn. Camouflaged in tutus and pink antlers, bantering at the glances of those heading back, to bills shouting from dressers, to sheds that needed creosoting. Not for us, oh no, we had it all in the bag. Vodka and Galaxy bars and all the blondes of England to come. At the summit, 10 women on a checkered rug, staring at how far they'd travelled, had just begun to pass round cling-filmed sandwiches as if they were transparent presents, and point little silver flasks like wands at mountains still to climb, when we fizzed up with, "Hello girls, having a party?" "Kind of," they nodded. "We're a support group. We're widowed under 40. I've been coming to Ledbury for 15 years now, and one of the things that makes it so special to me is that it's almost like a family. It's like a kind of home from home, and there's always been a very warm welcome. And I'd say
But it is. I think it's also such a beautiful place, and it's always in summer. And I know it never rains in Ledbury. There was a drizzle when I was driving here, but you see, it's cleared up.
The mention of a small West Midlands town will jog Jack's memory. He'll slap his thighs, his chest will heave, he'll roar, "Ah, Ledbury! That's where they close the street for poetry." Good night.
The Ledbury Poetry Festival has always fought against the idea that poetry it occupies some ivory tower. You know, no way. For us, poetry is all around. So you'll find it on the streets, in gardens, pubs and cafes, the shop windows, and also please listen out for our Poetry as Protest theme, because this is running throughout the festival. 25 poets will show their solidarity with their colleagues around the world who are imprisoned or threatened because of their work. This is a partnership with English Pen, and so you'll hear poems by the poets read by their colleagues. So it's really lovely, something to listen out for. And I think you only have to read this anthology actually to see how engaged and political many poets are without ever compromising their integrity or the quality of the wonderful work that they write. And that's, for me, personally, reading the anthology has been one of the most invigorating things about it. So check that out when you get your copy.
The festival has come a long way since the first tentative meetings we held at various pubs in Ledbury many, many years ago, under the initial baton of John Burns. And after much alcohol, we did take the plunge. We took the plunge, actually, at Judy and Alan Lloyd's house here in Ledbury. I wanted to mention that because that reinforces the fact that, Alan, you were there at the beginning. So we were an organic farmer, a painter, a joiner, a teacher, a banker, a herb specialist, a musician, and it was the love of poetry that was the one thing we all had in common.
It was an extraordinary collection then of half a dozen real enthusiasts and lovers of poetry, and I loved coming down. It was my first, literally my first weeks as arts minister in 97 years, and it was I remember it well. My civil servants dumped a file on my desk and said, Minister, these are the things that we've accepted for you this summer, but I expect you won't want to do these. For instance, you certainly won't want to do this unknown place called in Herefordshire called Ledbury, who's started a new poetry festival, so we can write that out of your diary. And I said, on the contrary, I've been working with poets for the last 10 years, and I love contemporary poetry. I would love to do it, and they were most put out and very huffy. They wrote me an appalling speech, clearly written by somebody who'd never been to a poetry, and never read any poetry, or never been to a poetry festival. So I scrapped that and spoke here from the heart, and I loved this place from day one, because all the people here, like Peter and Alan and etc., were so in love with poetry, and it was such a fantastic atmosphere.
In the festival's Poet into Schools initiative, we see with what imagination and power children are developing a personal vocabulary, using language that is often stark, strong, bold, and original. We can learn from them. We can also learn from this extraordinarily rich mix of poets in this 20-year anthology.
Because we wanted the receipts from this anthology, please buy it, to go to our wonderful education work. Last year we worked with 3,000 children, and we need to support that more, and so all the receipts from Hwaet will go to that.
So please, be serious now and go back and buy enough copies of Hwaet. Thank you very much.